They thought dumping mountains of filthy, contaminated snow on my yard would finally break me. You should have seen the look on Karen Whitmore's face, standing there on her porch at sunrise, sipping her overpriced coffee, smirking at the chaos she'd caused with her convoy of city plows and dump trucks. Little did she know, she was handing me the perfect weapon for payback, gift wrapped in dirty slush. It was 6 a.m. on a Tuesday in Minnesota, the kind of cold that freezes your nose hairs the second you step outside. I'm Rex Donovan, single dad, master electrician, and, apparently, now public enemy number one for the Maplewood Estates HOA. My front yard was buried under 10 feet of gray, toxic sludge, stinking of diesel, road salt, dog pee, and week-old trash. There were cigarette butts, McDonald's wrappers, even what looked like someone's lost sock floating in the filth. My work truck? Completely buried. I had an emergency call at the children's hospital for a busted generator. I couldn't even get out of my own driveway. And there's Karen, in her silk robe, admiring the mess she orchestrated, like she'd just won suburban World War III. I know what you're thinking. Why would anyone do this? Why would an HOA president go full Bond villain just to mess with an electrician? Well, let me back up a sec. See, 3 months ago, I was just your average, slightly jaded 47-year-old divorced dad, looking for a fresh start. I'd bought this modest little ranch on the edge of Maplewood Estates, nothing fancy, but perfect for weekends with my daughter Zoe. I wanted peace and quiet, maybe some space to breathe. The neighborhood looked like a postcard, kids on bikes, big trees, lawns so green you wondered if someone snuck in at night and spray painted them. I figured I'd keep my head down, pay my dues, and fly under the radar. Then I met her, Karen Whitmore. Early 60s, hair sprayed to within an inch of its life, always driving that white Lexus SUV like she was leading a presidential motorcade. She didn't walk, she prowled, perfume trailing behind her, smile sharper than a tack. And her husband, Doug, he sat on the city council, feeding Karen's delusions of political grandeur. Their house was straight out of a magazine, not a weed in sight, driveway so clean you could eat off it. Karen's hobby? Enforcing HOA rules on anyone who didn't fit her vision, which apparently didn't include electricians, plumbers, or, honestly, anyone who actually worked for a living. My first run-in was over my work truck. I'd parked it in my driveway after a long day, still smelling of sawdust and sweat. Honest work, you know? Next morning, there's a violation notice on my door. Commercial vehicle, section 12.3. I read the fine print. It said, no commercial vehicles on the street. I was parked in my own driveway. But Karen just gave me that frozen smile. This is a residential area, not a contractor's lot. Meanwhile, her son parked his girlfriend's catering van there every weekend and nobody blinked. Double standards? Oh, you have no idea. I paid the fine, started parking on the street, thought it'd be over. But Karen liked the taste of blood. She went after Bob's plumbing van, cited Mrs. Violet for prayer flags, targeted working-class folks while the doctors and lawyers got a free pass. That's when I started taking notes, walking the neighborhood at dusk, pen in hand, cataloging every violation she ignored. I figured if she was running a campaign, so was I. But then she made it personal. She went after Zoe. It was a Saturday in December, crisp and sunny. Zoe was bouncing with excitement. Finally convinced me to set up her portable basketball hoop in the driveway. For 20 minutes, life felt normal again. Then came that familiar click, click, click. Karen in her bathrobe, striding across the street. That recreational equipment needs to be removed. Section 8.7. Zoe just froze, the ball dangling from her hands. All that teenage joy draining away. I pointed out all the other hoops around the neighborhood. Henderson's, Miller's, even Karen's own son. Grandfathered, she said, with proper approval. Sure. That night, after Zoe went to bed early, I loaded up my truck. With a camera and tape measure, documented every hoop, every trailer, every unauthorized mailbox. Monday morning, I filed a formal complaint, selective enforcement, conflict of interest, all the good stuff. I even CC'd her husband Doug for good measure. That's when things got nuclear. Karen called an emergency HOA meeting, completely illegal, by the way, since emergencies require actual emergencies, not just her bruised ego. She tried to make it about my harassment, but I'd done my homework. I stood up, bylaws in hand, and called her out. Dead silence. Karen turned every shade of red known to man. She retaliated by sending a professional surveyor to my house, looking for fence violations. The poor guy looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. $800 later. Turns out my fence was perfectly legal, with 3 inches to spare. Then came the mailbox, 2 inches too close to the street, she said, citing a rule that didn't exist. The post office told me I was fine. She filed a complaint with the city anyway. And that's when I realized I wasn't alone. Mrs. Violet invited me in for tea. Her prayer flags, beautiful and bright, violated Karen's imaginary decor standards. Bob Martinez shared his $500 fine for an oil spot you needed a magnifying glass to see, while the cardiologist's leaking Porsche got a free pass. The pattern was obvious. Blue-collar workers and minorities got hammered. White-collar elites floated free. But Karen's corruption went deeper. She'd weaponize violations to drum up real estate business. Suddenly, her business cards showed up in mailboxes right before houses hit the market. Coincidence? I don't think so. But the real twist came when she accused me of forging her signature on a made-up snow storage agreement. Insurance fraud, right there in black and white. Only problem? I had security footage proving it was all a lie. Then came February. If you've never spent a winter in Minnesota, let me paint you a picture: brutal, relentless, and perfect for a little revenge. A blizzard hit, dumping over 1.5 feet of wet, heavy snow. Normally, city trucks haul that stuff away to special dump sites. Not this time. At 3 a.m., I woke up to the roar of diesel engines, 12 dump trucks, for plows, all coordinated by Karen herself. They piled it all on my property, 200 cubic yards of the filthiest snow you can imagine, loaded with oil, road salt, and who knows what else. The stench was unreal. And right then, with my truck buried, phone ringing off the hook from the children's hospital, something clicked. See, electricians think in systems: flow, pressure, cause and effect. I realized I could turn Karen's weapon right back on her, with a little help from physics, some industrial pumps, and a very detailed understanding of the original HOA bylaws. I did my research. Turns out, the 1987 covenant specifically bans dumping snow on residential lots. My friend Sarah, a paralegal with a nose for trouble, found that the HOA insurance policy excludes damages from board members acting outside their authority. Translation: Karen was personally liable for every dollar of damage, and state environmental laws tacked on automatic fines for illegal dumping. Up to $500 per cubic yard. That's a 6-figure problem for Karen. I got to work, rented an industrial snow melter, high-pressure pumps, and mapped out every storm drain, every elevation drop. My dining room turned into mission control. By the time I finished, I had a plan to liquefy those 200 cubic yards into a 15,000-gallon flash flood, routed straight toward Karen's house at the exact moment of her re-election speech. Neighbors pitched in. Mrs. Violet let me use her house for surveillance. Bob's crew helped hide the hoses. Even my union brothers offered technical support. We documented everything: photos, time-lapse video, live streams. Sarah lined up EPA complaints, police reports, even an ethics violation with the real estate board. Friday night, I sent out a neighborhood email blast. Links to live footage, a summary of Karen's crimes, an invitation to witness. Some old-fashioned poetic justice. Karen tried everything, called every contractor in town, tried to bribe neighbors, even attempted to sabotage my setup at 5 in the morning. Security lights lit her up like a Broadway show, all caught on camera. Saturday morning. Sun shining, the air sharp enough to slice bread. I started the pumps right as Karen was getting ready for her big speech. Melting snow turned into a brown river, flowing right down the street, carrying all the trash, salt, and sludge she'd dumped on me. News crews showed up, cameras rolling. Karen's pristine Lexus ended up marooned, her designer boots soaked as she tried to wade across what looked suspiciously like her own mess. The annual HOA meeting? Moved upstairs. First floor was flooded. Over 100 residents showed up. I walked in, dry and calm, with a folder full of evidence. Karen tried to call the meeting to order, but the police arrived first, served her with charges for illegal dumping, environmental violations, criminal destruction of property. The EPA delivered their cleanup order. Doug's city council career tanked. The state revoked Karen's real estate license, and the HOA board voted to remove her on the spot. Standing there, watching the queen of Maplewood Estates get dethroned by her own arrogance, I felt a sense of satisfaction money can't buy. You know, sometimes the only way to deal with bullies is to give them a taste of their own medicine, with a side of physics and a dash of poetic justice. So let me ask you this. If your HOA ever tried to bury you, would you fight back? Or would you let them walk all over you? Drop your stories below. What's the wildest thing you've seen an HOA do? And what would you call real justice? I say it's about time regular folks stood up to power-hungry bullies, one snowstorm at a time.